Hey everyone, welcome to another recording session of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me for tonight's show is going to be your commentators, Rob Morse from Self-Defense Gun Stories, Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, and John Richardson of the Only Guns and Money blog. We're going to get into it here in just a second. Guys, I did up the introduction earlier. Are we ready to go with the show?
Oh.
I'm ready.
We are highly trained professionals.
Yeah, and paid like it too, right?
Until I have to start to read.
All right. All right. In that case, guys, I think I am ready to start pushing buttons. I just got to get social media connected here. Reminder, folks, that Twitter is no longer accepting my broadcast software logins. So if you're watching on Polite Society Podcast, YouTube, or Facebook channel, those comments will get to us. If you're watching us on Getter, if you're watching us on Rumble, if you're watching us on OpsLens, those comments will not reach us. So just shoot me an email, paul@politicsandguns.com, or jump over to the YouTube or Facebook feeds if you've got to get in comments while we are on air. And we are hooked up there. Let me hit this button so I can see what. All right, George Geller's already checking in on YouTube. I think it's time for us to go. Here we go, guys. And Masada Yub I got to forget. If I said his name, I got it. Masada Yub. In 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this on Monday, April the 10th, 2023. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and tonight we're going to interview Michael Cargill about winning his bump stock case in the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and it may go farther.
I'm John Richardson, and we will talk about bad gun laws in California and Massachusetts being struck down.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we will talk about New York's red flag law being declared unconstitutional by the New York Supreme Court. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 657 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, it is Monday night. It is 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. And so that means it's time for another edition of the Polite Society podcast. Rob, it's been a while since you've been on the air. I think you spent, 3 weeks in the air trying to get back from Australia?
You can go halfway around the world. Depending on how you got there, it may take you about 36 hours of travel to get back. It's a miracle. It was the trip of a lifetime. Since I returned, I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load radio show. I record another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories. The next one's with Amanda Suffolk. And I joined Paul on the Weekly Bullet on Saturday. John, I hope you've been well.
I have been well, and I presume you did not carry when you were in Australia.
Very, very true. I did not carry. Right. Nor New Zealand.
Well, I hope everyone had a nice Easter and or Passover. We spent it with grandkids who had quite a bit of fun searching for plastic eggs twice, indoors and outdoors. And in amateur gunsmithing news, removing stripped scope mount screws without damaging the rifle can be challenging. Fortunately, after 2 to 3 hours of work for 4 screws, I passed the test. Charlie?
That is some patience there, I got to tell you. I've had some classes I've had some classes recently, which is nice, particularly since the NRA annual meetings are coming this weekend. So it's nice to be able to go and have something to eat while I'm there. Last weekend, I went to the Gold Concealed Carry Fashion Show and had a great time there, hanging out with some of the DC Project gals and some of the folks from the Gold Podcast and the Gun Owners Action League, and that was a real lot of fun. Paul, what has been happening with you and Susan?
Well, Susan cannot make it tonight. She's feeling a little bit under the weather. We have been just really nonstop this week planning AMCON and planning GRPC. It's, how do I put this? We are AMCON. I mean, we've got Charlie, you're part of the people that help us plan AMCON, but the buck really stops here when it comes to AMCON, but we've also taken a more active role in planning GRPC, and we're working with it. Every night this week we've had something to do with one or the other, so that's been all consuming. We want to get everything wrapped up with both of those well in advance of when they happen, so that plans are all set. It's been recent years that things have started to slip later and later. We do not want that to happen this year, so lots of work with AMCON, lots of work with GRPC is what's been going on with me. On a personal note, this coming Saturday is Motorcycle Freedom Day. Susan and I, our bikes are in storage for the winter. Today, as we speak, it's 76 degrees in Sioux Falls. And this Saturday, we've made plans. We're going to get the bikes out of storage, get some riding in this weekend. So that's kind of what's been going on. I think it's time, guys. We need to set aside the personal news, and we need to get to our interviewee who is patiently waiting for us, Michael Cargill, who successfully, in the Fifth Circuit, has sued the Biden administration and won. And we're going to be talking, and we'll get into what's going on with the lawsuit. It's not completely done yet. We'll be getting into what's going on with that when we come back and talk to him, which we'll be doing right after we hear from ACLDN. Right back, folks, right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back, and joining us tonight, Michael Cargill. You might know of Michael as, well, he's, to start with, he's the owner of Central Texas Gunworks. He's also the gentleman behind the successful Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals lawsuit that attacked the Biden bump stock ban. Michael, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So Mike, I think we got that entirely wrong. Don't you also have a podcast, Michael? Isn't that why everybody knows you?
I do. I have a podcast. It's called Come and Talk It. It's a live
Yeah.
radio show. It's
Ah.
live
Right.
radio in Austin.
Okay.
Tell everybody about it. Usually I do that towards the end, but let's take time right now. Tell everybody about Come and Talk It. And you are good friends with a former cast member here, and well, I don't want to say former because she hasn't quit; she just hasn't been on in years. But you and Rachel Malone are great friends. She's been on your show. Tell us a little bit about Come and Talk.
Right. So Come and Talk. It's a gun talk show. It's a live radio show in Austin, Texas, and we talk all things firearms. We actually talked about this very high-profile case of Daniel Perry shooting a protester, Garrett Foster, in 2020. He was actually convicted this past Friday for shooting Garrett Foster, a protester. And so we talked about that case this last weekend, and the show airs every Sunday at 4 o'clock from 4 to 5:30 p.m. It's comeandtalkit.com. It's on Come and Talk It on YouTube. It's everywhere. It's a podcast. It's a live radio show. It's everything.
Wrong button. Wasn't I reading that there has been accusations, very serious accusations of prosecutorial misconduct in that case?
Yeah. So you have a prosecutor here in Austin, Texas. Austin. Let me explain to you a little bit. It's like that blue dot in the sea of red, and so it's the one place where we have a district attorney that decides to prosecute only people that are his political opponents, so to speak. So if you commit a crime and you're on the opposite side of this DA, he is going to prosecute you. And so there are people that are involved in this same case with Daniel Perry, who was a sergeant in the United States Army in the driving for Uber or Lyft on a particular night in 2020. He dropped off a passenger on one side street. He goes to a major street in Austin called Congress, the road that leads to the Texas State Capitol. He makes a right turn onto that major road, and as he makes that right turn around 10 o'clock at night, you have a group of protesters that are marching up the street. These protesters actually surround his vehicle. They're pounding on his vehicle. Someone kicked his vehicle. They yelled at him to get out of the vehicle while someone's pointing an AK-47 at him next to his vehicle. And so Daniel Perry was in fear of losing his life, so he pulled out a firearm, fired 5 shots, shot that person who had the AK-47, yelling at him to get out of the vehicle, and looking like he was actually lifting the gun up at him, stopped that person. When he fired those shots, the crowd actually dispersed, cleared his path. He continued through that, down that road. He goes to the next major intersection, makes a left turn, stops, calls 911, and waits for the police to arrive.
Wow. I remember, Rob, didn't we talked about that particular case in a DGU back a while back?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did.
So now the thing, I don't know this or not, well, the Governor Abbott, he actually came out on Saturday, and he's decided to pardon Daniel Perry for this. And so we have to wait till things, make it down to the governor. But he says as soon as it hits his desk, he's going to pardon him as soon as humanly possible.
That's a good thing. Well, let's go ahead and shift gears here a little bit. Your lawsuit in the Fifth Circuit. This is a case about the BATFE changing definitions of bump stocks. That actually, my memory isn't what it was when I was 20, but hell, it isn't even what it was when I was 50. But if I remember right, the definition initially changed in the Trump administration, at the end of the Trump administration, and you sued the ATF and you won in the Fifth Circuit. We found out this week that the Attorney General for the United States is going to ask the Supreme Court for a writ of certiorari, or they're going to ask the Supreme Court to take a look at it. So right when you thought, I've won, this is good, now, yeah, maybe. Tell us about what's going on with that, man.
Right. So we actually filed a lawsuit against the federal government back when they did the bump stock ban. And so I didn't want to make this case into a Second Amendment case. I figured that we need to, there are a bunch of other people out there that were taking the Second Amendment stance. I said, we need to take a different angle with this, because what if those people fail? We need to be able to prevail. And I want to make sure that we're setting up a case that actually is going to be presented in front of the United States Supreme Court, the highest court of the land. So I reached out for a group of attorneys who I thought were able to present a case to the Supreme Court, because not every attorney can actually present a case to the United States Supreme Court. So I want to make sure that they were capable, to do this. And so I found a group of attorneys. We filed a lawsuit against the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and we wanted to clarify what the definition of a machine gun was. And we also wanted the court to define and basically say that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms cannot create or write law. Only Congress can do that. Congress writes laws. Someone writes a bill, that bill goes to both houses, the president signs it and becomes law. And so we wanted them to clarify that with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and the Department of Justice. So we filed that lawsuit. We went to court in Austin, Texas in 2020, of September of 2020, during COVID. It was the only case that was held in court post-COVID, that year. And so we had a trial in federal court. We actually were in court, not on Skype or anything else. We're actually in the courtroom. And the judge heard this case. We had a trial. The judge decided against me. And so we lost that case. And so I appealed to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit is over Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So we appealed this case to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit, it was heard in front of a three-judge panel. And so this court actually has a majority of conservative justices on the court. But we drew a three-judge panel. Now I'm going to ask you guys this. Out of that three-judge panel, the majority of the justices were conservative justices. How many on this court do you think we drew that were actually conservative? Because the majority of them were conservative. There are 17 judges on the panel. About 14 of them, are conservative. How many think we drew that were actually conservative out of the 14? All right, so we're going to take these odds to Vegas because they're all Democrats, all three judges. Okay. So, we drew a three-judge panel of all Democrat appointed justices, and so we lost that case in the Fifth Circuit. So we appealed the case again to the Fifth Circuit, and we want this case to be heard en banc in front of all the justices on the court. Mm-hmm. So we appealed the case, and they accepted, and they threw out the previous ruling, and we had a trial in September of 2021. Matter of fact, it was September the 13th of 2021 in New Orleans. And so we finally got that ruling back in January the 6th, no less. And I want to stress that was January the 6th of 2023, mm-hmm. if you know what that date is. Yeah. And so we found out that we won in the Fifth Circuit in front of the entire court, 13-3, in favor of Cargill versus Garland. And the justices actually, they pretty much laid it out. They said, hey, machine guns are this. When you pull the trigger and you hold the trigger, it shoots more than one round, then that is a machine gun. A semi-automatic, when you pull the trigger and one round goes out, each pull the trigger, one round is produced, that is a semi-automatic. And then the justices said, hey, when it comes to the ATF cannot create a right law. That is reserved for Congress. Unless Congress has delegated that authority to the ATF, which they have not, then ATF can't do this. They can't create a right law on their own. And so we won that case in the Fifth Circuit, and I thought everything was going to be fine. We're waiting for the judge to actually, for this case to be handed back down to the lower court. Lower court's supposed to, pretty much say, hey, you won the case. and this is the relief I'm going to give you. We're going to make sure that bump stocks are legal in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, or they can throw out the entire thing, the entire ban, and say, you know what, bump stocks are legal in all 50 states. But instead, the judge came back and just says, hey, Michael Cargill, you won the case closed, that's it. We're not going to give you any relief. And so we're like, whoa, what's going on here? And so I figured they were just buying time because the government missed one of the deadlines to appeal the case. So they had one last deadline to actually appeal, and that actually was on April the 6th. So on April the 6th, by midnight, if the government did not appeal the Cargill v. Garland case, in that case, it would be sent back down to the lower court. Lower court is going to have to decide on what relief they were going to give me. Luckily, at the very last minute, the very last hour, very last day, the government, Department of Justice, decided to appeal the Cargill v. Garland case to the United States Supreme Court and asked the United States Supreme Court to actually accept this case and hear this case. And so we'll see what happens there. So I'm actually excited that we're going to the United States Supreme Court, because this will be, if the United States Supreme Court hears this case, if they rule on this case, it will be the law of the land. And I think this is a very important case because you have a lot of different cases that are out there that talks about what they call the Chevron deference. Can the federal agency actually create a right law? And so, we have the brace ban and things of that nature. And so this case could be set as case law as going forward. So it could be one of the most important cases of our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Michael, I want to point out something in the timeline here. You won Cargill v. Garland before the Bruin ruling became public. That's right, isn't it?
What was the date of that? And I'll tell you.
June 23rd, 2022.
Yeah,
okay,
you won.
So I didn't win my case until January the 6th of 2023.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Really what I look at your case and then I look at the GOA case in the Sixth Circuit, and they won with the 3-judge panel but lost with en banc, where fortunately you won en banc after losing the 3-judge panel. So quite a lot of similarities. And I think going forward, as you rightly said, this case is going to be important not just for bump stocks, but for pistol braces. Can the ATF change a law, change a regulation that make it a law that now has a criminal penalty?
Right, that is correct.
Michael basically is constraining the ATF not to write law, but to enforce the law as passed. So you're right. This is a huge case.
That's correct. This is a huge case, and so we'll see what happens, because if the Supreme Court rules on this, and you have a lot of cases that are moving forward with the brace ban, who are originating in Texas. You have the governor of Texas, with the GOA. You have FRAC with 50 other states that are suing the federal government for the brace ban. You have, there are so many other cases that are out there. All those cases are actually using Cargill as case law right now, the Fifth Circuit ruling, and saying, look, the Fifth Circuit has ruled on this, that the ATF cannot create a right law. And so I'm hoping that out of one of these cases that are originating in Texas, we get an injunction, a stay, and so that we're able to keep our brace. We don't have to turn in any of our braces.
What is the other federal decision, John, you'll remember, that told government agencies they cannot invent law? Is that West Virginia v. EPA?
Yes.
It was an EPA case, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, West Virginia, in this past October session.
So we have not only a circuit split about bump stocks, but we have prior law of a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, not just a confirmation, but a ruling where they say federal agencies, you can only enforce the law as written. So, wow, Michael, one way or another, you're going to be cited for a very long time with this case.
That's right. And so what we're needing right now is we're needing every pro Second Amendment group to come out with amicus briefs. We need them to present the amicus briefs, in this case, as soon as possible. And so, there's a playbook here that we're going to go by. This is a chess game. It's a chess match. And so there's, certain things that I'm asking for, so that way we can move on our side. And so I'm asking every single organization out there, NRA, every organization that's out there, GOA, to come out and write the amicus brief, so that way we can, move forward on our side.
When do those briefs have to be filed? Do you have a court date yet?
All right, so we don't have a court date, but we do have a deadline of the amicus briefs. So they actually are due. The deadline to find the deadline to file all the amicus briefs is going to be May 6th.
Okay. Wow, not that long.
Michael, can I ask?
And that can be extended, but as of right now, it's May 6th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you about the attorneys that you had who represented you from the beginning? As I understand it, wasn't Harriet Hageman, who's now a U.S. representative from Wyoming, one of your attorneys?
Oh, yeah.
No. So unless he was a member of NCLA, if he was a member of NCLA, then yes. I don't know that. He was? Okay, yeah. I don't know that name. I'm not familiar with him. I never met him. But if he was with NCLA, then yes, because NCLA is the organization that's actually represented.
The reason I ask is I saw her name on one of the briefs.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Wow.
So how do we get people to write briefs for this? Like, is it something that members do and say, hey, listen, you know what? This is my state organization. I think they need to write an amicus brief?
Right. So in every case that goes forward, whether it goes to, like an appellate court or district court or whatever, you have different organizations that will write a brief. They'll write in pretty much an outline quoting different cases and saying, hey, this is why we think that, this court should rule in this particular way, because they reference like different other cases that are out there, and they already know how to do this. You have law firms, they do this with every single case that goes forward. And so this is going to be we're at the most important point, most important stage of this lawsuit right now, where we need these amicus briefs to be as strong and as powerful as possible, using, quoting everything that everyone can possibly think of, so that way we have the best chance to win this case in the United States Supreme Court, the highest court of the land.
I would add they don't have to even be pro-gun groups like GOA, SAF, Firearms Policy Coalition. You could have groups that hate Chevron deference who would get involved, saying, we need to take Cargill v. Garland to the Supreme Court to get rid of Chevron deference. And I know there's at least there's a couple of justices who don't want to give Chevron deference anyway.
Right. And you're absolutely correct, because you take like the EPA, you take like OSHA, you take any department within our federal government that decides to ban something, and I like to use the one that, ladies, there are any, ladies out there who love high heels. Let's say that there's a department of our federal government decides to ban OSHA, decides to ban high heels because they think they're bad for ladies' backs. And so they say, we're going to ban high heel shoes, and we're going to confiscate them, make you turn all high heel shoes in, and they're illegal. If you possess any of them, then you're a felon for possessing them. And what we're saying is that, look, you are an agency within our federal government. You cannot do that. Congress has the right of law, has the right of bill. That bill becomes law, and that's how laws are made.
Besides, don't get me wrong. You have accomplished something Very few of us ever will. But with goals that big, what else you got on the back burner, Michael? Or are you allowed to look that far until this one gets over the final yard line?
So there are several cases that we have. If you go to michaelcargill.com, that is michaelcargill.com, we have several court cases that we're working on. There's a case that we have that we're suing the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, for all gun stores in the entire country. Because currently right now, you have the ATF, they're conducting inspections on different gun stores. And when they walk to the gun store and conduct their inspection, if they find any paperwork errors at all, for example, you look at the 4473. There's one little box on the 4473 that actually says country. Actually, it says county. But guess what? A lot of people look at that box, they think it says country, but it actually says county. And they actually put the United States in the box instead of the county that they live in. And so when you make that little mistake, guess what? And the ATF catches that mistake. You make, X amount of mistakes, 10 mistakes, 20 mistakes, you didn't catch and make the customer correct those, they will revoke your federal firearms license because of the mistake that the customer made. And they're shutting down gun stores in the country because of those small little paperwork errors. So what I did was I said, you know what? This is looking like there's a possibility that we're going to win this lawsuit against the Department of Justice and ATF. And if we win this lawsuit, what stops the ATF from walking into Central Texas Gun Works, my gun store, to inspect me and shut me down? And so I said, we need to get on the offensive here. So I joined forces with Texas Public Policy Foundation, TPPF, and we filed a lawsuit against the ATF for all gun stores in the country to say, look, you cannot shut down gun stores because the law that Congress passed does not, talk about small paperwork errors. It talks about if a gun store, federal firearms license dealer knowingly transfer a firearm to a prohibited person, just because someone makes a mistake, they didn't dot their I, they didn't cross their T, there are 100 points on a 4473 that have to be filled in. 100 different spots that have to be filled in. There are 100 different ways to actually make mistakes on this form. And if someone makes that mistake, you shut them down and they're gone. You're talking mom and pop gun stores who've been in business for decades. So we decided to file this lawsuit against the ATF and say, you know what, we're going to stand up and be on the offensive instead of the defensive side, be on the offensive side and go against the ATF to stop them in what they're doing and protecting all the gun stores.
Michael, we're at the bottom of the hour. Sorry, can I have you hang on with us for one more segment, man?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to step aside real quick, and when we come back, we'll have more with Michael Cargill after we hear from the Complete Combatant. Back right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. All right, we are back with Michael Cargill. He's the guy behind the Come and Talk It radio show in Austin, also owner of Central Texas Gun Works. Michael, I want to get a couple comments we've gotten. I want to get those in here real quick. And first one, 500 Magnum over on the YouTube side said, "That's a fine collection behind you, Michael." And you are at your business right now, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So that's some of what's at Central Texas Gunworks. And going to your comments about banning high heels, we got a couple of them in. Get this one up. Gun website says no one needs heels that high. And George chimes in as well, says we need common sense high heel control. Yeah, I gotta say, man, I'm nervous when a lady is taller than me, and it doesn't happen very often. But man, some of these heels they get, they can double as weapons. So
you gotta remember, they have the right to their high heels, and they don't have to have a reason to why they want to have their high heels. So we need to let them have their high heels.
Yeah, but hold them responsible if they misuse them at the same time.
I think you got to behave yourself, Paul.
John, what did we do to deserve this? Michael, I came from California. I'm a refugee. And as I recall, FFLs there always used software to fill out the 4473. Are there organizations, is there essentially a company, a program you can hire to do that? I assume what that does is check that you have given an acceptable answer on the 4473 line by line, so you get a perfect score. Am I making that up?
No, you're not. And so what I've done in my gun store since 2020, with COVID, that actually changed the game for us. Because in 2020, when the country shut down, we had a line outside the door. We had a tent set up in the parking lot, and we had people from March 13th all the way until the winter time, people trying to get into the gun store to pick up guns. And so we actually, after that year, switched to a software because we were doing paper, and I said we just cannot do paper. This is too much. And so we switched to a software, but those softwares, they're not perfect. They do some things will slip by, even the software. What if the customer, or what if my clerk puts in the driver's license number in this, and also they use that same driver's license number and put it in the LTC box as well for the LTC number, and it's a totally different number. So the software won't catch those little things. There are little things that the software will not catch, but the majority of things, the big issues, the software will definitely catch all of those, which is great. But even the little things, it's not going to stop a prohibited person from getting access to a firearm. And so what I'm saying is, we shouldn't use that to shut down mom and pop gun stores just because, those little minor errors.
Well, go, Charlie.
I was going to say, speaking of small minor errors, I was actually filling out a 4473 this past week, and I was sitting at a computer typing in all my information, and I put my first name, last name, and middle name, but it's first name, middle name, and last name. And it was one of those things I cruised right through, and first name, last name, middle name, and then all the other information. And when the guy says, okay, let's check this out, we went back to check it, and I'm like, I put my middle name where my last name goes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it happens. It happens a lot. We have to make you redo the form all over again.
Yep. I'm personally very fond of the way South Dakota does it. If you have an enhanced permit, you walk into the gun store, you show them your enhanced permit. You still have to fill out the 4473. You do not have to wait for them to get a hold of the ATF and the ATF to decide that, okay, yeah. So you just walk out with the gun before they ever call the ATF. So,
Michael, make me smart here. The requirement that we submit a 4473, is that before we're allowed to get a gun, is that a federal or a state requirement for a firearms transfer?
So on the 4473, there is a box for the LTC or the concealed handgun license or CCW, whatever you call it in your state, that you put in that information, you put in the license number, you put in the expiration date of the license, and that will allow you, that's federal, and that will allow you to bypass the background check. You don't have to contact the FBI and do a background check. Now, there's some states, it depends on the state. There's some states that say, hey, you have to contact them, and still check. You're going to have your little communist states that are out there. But the majority of states, if you have a gun license from the state you live in, You can use that gun license. They put that information on the form. There's a separate box for it. And then you can bypass the background check system by that gun store does not have to contact the FBI and do the background check because your background check's already been done because you have a gun license.
So, Michael, I've got a question for you. How are you affording all of these court cases? Like, this does not sound like a cheap conversation to have with an attorney to say that you want to sue the federal government and then sue them again, and then, you want to appeal it and go to the next level.
Right. So you're right. So we're actually trying to, we're raising funds. Luckily, I'm, hooked up with some nonprofit organizations that are, majority of them are not, they're not gun organizations at all. I want to stress this. So like the NCLA, they're not a gun organization. This is their first gun case. Texas Public Policy Foundation, they're not a gun organization. This is their first gun case. And so I've teamed up with them to move forward and say, hey, you guys, you're may have a conservative cause or not, or you may, have a stance where you go against the government where things are not right, but you need to do a Second Amendment case also because you haven't done one. And they agreed. And so they're raising funds. I'm trying to raise funds. You go to michaelcargill.com. You can donate there. Because we're talking $1 million cases here. We're talking cases with experts, whatever. We're talking research. We're talking about going to different levels of different courts. We're talking, just like you said, Charlie, appeals. We're talking losing, anticipating losing because it's a no-brainer. You're going to lose a particular court because who appointed that justice on the court. And so you can tell if you're going to lose or not. And so we need to get all these cases to the United States Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, because I think we're going to be successful in that court.
Cool.
Yeah, once Saint Thomas gets a hold of it, yeah, absolutely.
Michael, can we go back to the other suit that you're working on to protect gun dealers against the ATF? Are you finding in Texas that the Houston and the Dallas field divisions are telling their industry inspectors, you need to have a certain number of stores that you need to just close down?
They will walk in and they will try to intimidate you. You have to stand strong. I had them come in to inspect me. I've gone through several inspections, and we're not perfect. We've had mistakes, and that's why I've changed what I've done. I said, look, okay, so we're making this mistake. I do an after actions review, and I said, okay, let's correct this so we don't make that mistake again. So my goal is not to make the same mistake. My goal is to be better. And so I changed all the processes. Every time there's an inspection, I change what we're doing to ensure that I don't make those same errors. And so that I'm trying to become perfect. But when you put humans into this, there are going to be some type of mistakes because we're humans and we make mistakes. If we were to go into a hospital and inspect the hospitals in this country and looking for any small minor error that the hospital is making, we would end up shutting down all the hospitals in this country and not having any hospitals at all.
You're right.
Real fast question again, Michael, and we're coming up towards the second end of the second segment, but real quickly, in the 2 years since the current administration has been in office, have you noticed an increase in ATF inspections, increase in frequency, or are they still coming about the same? They're just a lot more picky.
There's an increase, and there's also they're a lot more picky. I'm getting a lot of calls from gun stores all around the country who are complaining that the ATF is walking into their business and inspecting them, finding little small errors and actually shutting them down. People that have been, their business has been passed down from several generations. And so this is a very sad situation because these are people who are not trying to pass firearms to prohibited persons. They're trying to make money and build a business, and all while also being the first level of defense for our communities, because gun stores are that first line of defense. And the majority of your shootings, the majority of your crimes, people are not walking to the gun store to get those firearms. They're getting those guns from other ways and other means.
Yeah.
And so gun stores are that first line of defense.
Michael, can we underline that? You guys do such a good job, FFLs nationwide, that it's a fraction of a percent of criminals who go get their guns at a gun store. Some may try, they don't succeed. If a criminal got a gun at a gun store, he probably was not a criminal at the time he got the gun. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
That is absolutely correct. You got it right on the money.
Yeah, you guys really are the first line, and you do a phenomenal job. So why are they trying to put you out of business?
I don't know. I don't know. And they actually use gun stores as a database. And so for example, let's say a gun was recovered, in a crime. They actually will go to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, who'd you transfer the firearm to?" Manufacturer says, "Hey, I transferred it to this distributor." Distributor, "Who'd you transfer it to?" "I transferred it to this gun store." "Hey, who'd you transfer it to?" "Hey, I transferred it to this person here." "Hey, Mr. Customer, what happened to your gun?" "Oh, that gun was stolen from my vehicle." "Oh, well then why didn't you report that gun?" So we're the database for law enforcement because they can do a trace just like that in a matter of seconds. I can tell law enforcement very quickly who I sold the gun to, who I transferred it to.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, these inspections really feel like those commercials from the 1970s where the mother-in-law comes walking in with the white glove and to inspect the dust. You guys remember those commercials?
Yes.
They're coming in, they're like, "We're looking for something so that the mother-in-law can hate the son's wife."
Michael, many FFLs have a relationship with their local police department. Some better than others. Almost all of them, it's a working relationship of some sort. So at some point, the cops need a place to get guns too. I've known FFLs that were almost there expressly for the police. That doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes too. It gets crazy.
Right. That is correct.
Wow.
And
Wow.
you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, this is going to get interesting.
Michael, we are at the end of our time. We're at the end of the second segment. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to talk to us, man. Again, on the way out the door, tell everybody about Come and Talk It, and tell everybody how they can get their organizations involved to help out with briefs.
Yes. So the radio show is Come and Talk It. It's a live radio show every Sunday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Currently, right now, we're highlighting something that's going on in Austin, Texas, and that is there's a possibility that we could have a serial killer here in Austin, Texas. And so we're pushing the law enforcement to investigate and figure out why we have a group of males that actually are being found drowned in a lake close to the party district where people go out and have a great time. And so they're males between 20 and 30 years old. And we're saying, hey, we need a little help here to find out what's going on. So we've highlighted this and broke this story. And now they've increased policing in Austin because of it. They've actually added the state police to help compensate Austin for their lack of amount of police officers that they actually have. They're 300 police officers short. And so we broke that story on Come and Talk It. So definitely listen to the radio show there so you can get updates to that. Also, the gun store, which is Central Texas Gunworks. You can go to centraltexasgunworks.com. We're a gun store. We're a federal firearms license dealer, 07 type license, manufacturer license. We do license to carry handgun courses, beginning handgun courses. We do private security courses, level 2, 3, and 4 security courses. We also a security company ourselves because not enough police officers in Austin, so I have to arm my employees and make them security guards to protect the gun store. So definitely check us out. And I always like to tell people, more guns equals less crime. So you got that, you buy yourself a gun.
Nice.
Again, thank you, Michael. Folks, we do have to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got a lot of news to talk about. We'll get to that right after we hear from JPFO.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong-house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
Welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Let's see here. Let's get into this. Looks like Charlie, did you sign up to do some reading?
Yes, I did. A few weeks ago, we had the California handgun roster overturned. Last week, we had a 3-judge panel in the First Federal Circuit Court overturn the Massachusetts handgun roster, woohoo, and remand the case back to the lower courts to be reconsidered. This is good. Now we'll see the states appeal those decisions.
This was the Massachusetts State Superior Court, so there is Massachusetts State Supreme Court, which is not the Supreme Court in Massachusetts. So I guess they could appeal it, right, Charlie?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Did you try going down to the local gun shop and see if you could buy off roster items yet?
I have not. I would love to. All this. I hate saying this. All this really means is we can buy Gen 5 Glocks and Kimbers. Like that's the way I see it.
Can you buy standard capacity magazines for the Gen 5 Glocks and Kimbers?
Let's not push it, right? one step at a time, man.
Okay.
We still have to. I assume we'll still have to have the neutered magazines because it's the handgun roster. It's not the magazine roster.
Yeah, Charlie. Well, one, I was wondering how long it would take after California had their handgun roster overturned before Massachusetts. But was the Massachusetts handgun roster based off of the California one? In terms of what they included? Yeah, okay.
So the way it worked here in Massachusetts is we have I think there were two different lists. One's a list and the other's an unofficial list. And here's the thing. It's not that you can't have any of these guns that are not on the list. You just can't get them from a dealer. Right? This is Jedi mind trick stuff. So if you guys yeah, it really is. If you guys broke a mirror and had to move to Massachusetts, you could buy Gen 5 Glocks, and you could come here and you could sell them. You could probably sell them for more than you purchased them, and you could sell them to a private citizen after you have your license to carry. And it's perfectly legal. We don't have to go through a background check. You can only transfer four firearms per calendar year in a face-to-face transfer. Anything more than that has to go through a dealer. And you can bring your non-compliant guns here, and it's not illegal to have them. It's just illegal for the gun store to transfer them to you.
So how much more than I bought it for do you think? I mean, because I'm just trying to do some math in my head and trying to make...
Well, I'm going to say it's not going to be worth it, but it's going to be it's going to be a couple $100 for sure. I mean, I get the emails all the time where they're like, you can buy a Smith & Wesson AR, one of the sport models, the M&P 15s. You can buy them for whatever, $450 or so. Here they go for $900. If you buy a used one that somebody they changed out the rail on and put a red dot on it, they're going to charge you $1,300 or $1,400 for. I bought, no joke, 2 weeks, our AG back in 2016, our anti-gun attorney general, who's now our AGG, our anti-gun governor, she came out with this nonsense and said anything that looks like an AR is an AR. And and people could not purchase new ones anymore. So legit 2 weeks before then, I bought a used S&W M&P 15. I bought it for $5.25. I hung on to it for a couple of years, and I sold it for $1,000. And I had people tell me, they're like, "Dude, you're price gouging." I'm like, "I'm not price gouging. Somebody's asking $1,200. That guy's price gouging." So, and honestly, God, I think I was asking $900. The guy gave me $900, and then I'm going to say 3 months later, I saw him selling it for $1,100.
Supply and demand, man.
I mean, it really is. So one of the nice things is I really hope it drops the price of guns. That would be a wonderful benefit, because now, people can buy the guns that they haven't been able to purchase here.
If it's like California, you can buy an unsafe firearm from a law enforcement officer that chooses to sell it.
Oh yeah, that is the same. So the Gen 5 Glocks, a police officer can purchase, and he can turn around and sell it, but a gun store cannot sell one to me. And so I was talking with Petrolino about this recently, and he's like, "So how do you go about getting a Gen 5 Glock in Massachusetts?" I said, "You have to do a frame transfer. So you buy the frame in one purchase, and then you buy the slide barrel and magazine in another purchase, and then you go home and you put them together." So then he's like, "Dude, I don't want you to complain that there's no guns that you can't get then."
Well, but okay, do you remember, have you ever seen antique cars? This is like keeping the old license plate and pasting it on a new car and go, "See, it's antique." You're keeping the serialized part, but everything else is, never. Somehow this is keeping us safe. And what drives me insane is what 2013 was the Heller decision?
2008.
2008. Okay. 13 years ago. No, 15. So since then, Heller is the one that talked about banning firearms. Bruin talked about obtaining firearms carry licenses. So the law, judges were told how to evaluate these cases, and they have scrupulously avoided it for the last 15 years. What blank.
And
so, Charlie,
but the other thing to keep in mind, Rob, is we are only 9 months post Bruin, and so we've got to give it a little more time. For Massachusetts and California are going to have to eventually come into line, as will California.
I hope so.
But
let's hope so.
It's not going to be tomorrow.
So in Massachusetts, Charlie, you have an AR lower. Can you go out and buy an AR upper from anywhere and put it on it?
Oh, of course. Let's not be ridiculous. There are plenty of guys. You can still you can purchase lowers and build your own. You can drill your own and make your own as well. But I believe you're supposed to let the state know that you built a firearm with the we call it the FA-10 form. It's this Jedi mind trick again. We don't have gun registration. We have transfer registration. So we have paper. Yeah, I know, Jedi mind trick, man. We have registration. So when you transfer something that's got a serial number on it, you've got to let the state know that you're transferring it. Or if you purchase a lower receiver and then built it, once it's built, you got to let the state know that you built yourself an AR.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, let me get this comment up here real quick. I hope I got. Nope, that's the wrong one. Yeah, let me see if I can't find the. But I've got a comment. I got to get up here. Pete over at Gun Website says, "If this was a video game, we all just got a power up. New boss level unlocked."
Exactly. Like it'll this is I was just thinking about it, I was trying to anticipate what John was going to ask, and it would be nice to have a Gen 5 Glock, but I think I have to get new magazines for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that if I have to get new magazines that are only 10 rounds,
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm saying Free America is calling, man. I hurt for you.
Dude, you have no idea. This is what I lay about and think about at night. When am I going to leave? How do I get out of here? Can I just leave all my stuff and like drive? Like Steve Martin in
Tennessee
the Jerks.
looks good.
It really does. Just take all my belongings, whatever I can get in my car, and hit the gas.
Sleep on your daughter's dorm room floor.
Yeah, that'll go over real well. We get the creepy old guy here living with his daughter on the 9th floor. Yeah, that'll be real good.
I'm still trying to get the comments on the 4-shot fixed here. Let's see here. I'll work on that, guys. Who's got our next story?
I do.
Go ahead, John.
Bad elections have consequences. Innocent U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry was found guilty of murder in a 2020 shooting of an armed Black Lives Matter protester in Austin, Texas. Letting Soros-funded prosecutors into office is dangerous for us all. We may not be interested in politics, but politicians are interested in restricting our rights. In this case, the DA is accused of witness tampering and withholding evidence.
We've seen it get even worse, John. We've seen journalists convicted of not presenting a firearm during an assault. That was in Portland, Oregon. And in that case, there was not a governor who said he will pardon the journalist. That guy's in jail, I believe, his case on appeal. This is a wake-up call. I know lots of gun owners who are still politically asleep. Guys, wake up. These elections count.
You may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, I think if you look around the country, more than just Austin, Texas, more than this unfortunate Army sergeant, you have cities like Philadelphia, you now have New York, you have St. Louis, you had San Francisco, you have L.A., you have Fairfax County, Virginia, and the list goes on.
Right.
Say what you will about George Soros, he's not stupid. He's very wealthy and fairly bright and very evil. He figured that he could change the way we live by going after not the big seats, but smaller ones. One of the most powerful politicians in any location is always the prosecutor, because there's basically nobody to challenge them except the occasional judge. He also did secretaries of state. Look at the trouble we're having about honest elections. Both are, you could put, he didn't take him lots of money. $1 million here, $1 million there was just pocket change for him. He gets a DA, he gets a Secretary of State, and we're screwed.
Right. Which Carolina did he buy a sheriff, John?
Well, you could. It was interesting, and I can't say that he was behind it, but all of a sudden, all the major counties in North Carolina, Wake, Mecklenburg, Guilford, Forsyth, New Hanover, and Buncombe, all of a sudden had anti-gun, they're all Democrats, they're all fairly anti-gun, and being the South is kind of interesting, they're all African American. And I don't want to bring the race into it, but it just so happened all at once, boom, in 2018.
I want to get a couple of comments in. I've finally got everything fixed. I want to get a couple comments in from our that follow up on our last story. Gun Owners Radio is saying it's not really a Jedi mind trick, Charlie. It's a Sith mind trick.
Exactly.
And
we know about the Sith.
Yes.
There is always two.
Always. That was also, when I was a kid, that was my theory behind police officers when I was driving a little enthusiastically. When you see one, there's another one around. Anyway, another comment that came in. Dana, who actually writes our DGUs, Dana says, Charlie, they've got this thing called U-Haul.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, Charlie, if you go down to U-Haul, you can not only rent the truck to haul your stuff, you can rent a trailer that goes behind that truck that will also be able to haul your stagecoach with you.
This is true. So I will admit that I have never driven a vehicle with a trailer attached to it, and that kind of freaks me out.
You know, Charlie, I've done that a bunch. I can be bought at cheap rates.
I spent 20 years pulling trailers around, man.
Yeah, but I'm worried about your back. I mean, I'm expendable.
Well, at any
we
rate,
go on a road trip. That
go.
Sounds great, Rob. Road trip with Rob.
There you go.
Getting Charlie to a free state.
It's a new podcast.
Yeah, I've got a truck and a utility trailer, so
we're getting the bands back together. I love it.
Now you're talking.
All right, Rob, let's talk about Florida for a second, man.
Yeah, we have to. And I wish it were better news. Last week, 2 teenagers used stolen firearms to commit a mass murder. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods was grilled by the media. And he said, look, we have a problem with our young men, and I see it every day. There are laws against stealing guns. The sheriff pointed out that there are laws against teenagers having firearms and laws against murder. Quote, all the gun laws we've got in place didn't prevent any of this, did it? The bad guy's going to get a gun no matter what law you put in place. Now, do we want the laws? Now, we do what the law says we can do. We put photos out. I put myself in the shoes of these mothers that I talk to because I hear one of them say, I wish I would have known that this young man, what he was doing and who he really was, because my kids never would have hung out with him. Close quote. To think and to believe and to minimize any action that's criminal because it was committed by a juvenile is a disservice, and frankly, it's stupid. We need to hold these young men accountable and then hope that we can change them. Again, close quote. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods, when being asked by the media if it was a gun problem.
There's a sheriff that gets it.
Yeah, I had to send me this video after I saw it, and I'm like, man, this guy's great. You know, he's out there saying what it's talking about how it really is. It's not the gun's fault. These 2 youths went out and stole some firearms. Come on, I mean, it's not the gun's fault for the criminal mischief of these 2 people.
Well, I think what the sheriff... Go ahead, Charlie. I'm sorry.
And just to add on here, just like the mother was saying, I wish she wished she knew what this kid was like because her son wouldn't have hung out with him. This goes back to what our mother told us when we were teenagers. Like, you know, you be careful who you hang out with. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing is, if they jumped off a cliff, would you jump behind them?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
They're not doing smart things. Charlie, I want specifically. I only could send this to so many people, but I sent out a Facebook video to a bunch of people. You were among them. I don't think Rob and John. I don't think you guys got it. Did you guys get a video from me earlier today with Winsome Sears on it?
I didn't, but you're telling me I should go look, right?
I will. Let me.
I can send it to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bill Maher is interviewing Winsome Sears, who I believe is the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. And she says, look, if you break into my house, I'm going to shoot you. I'll pray for you, but I'm going to shoot you. And and Maher's right there saying, guns, I don't like them. I hate them. I've got guns, but I don't like them. And I'm like, this is reflected. Maher's like far left. And I was just stunned when I seen this video. I sent it out to like 60 people, and I'm getting a warning from Facebook saying you got to stop this. So
you're spamming us. But I want to put the rest of us in the shoes of this sheriff, because he sees young men who aren't being properly controlled at home every day. He sees a tide of them, and guess what? If your kids are running around in gangs, it's not a law problem. It's not a sheriff problem. He's on the wrong end. He can't fix it. So what else is he going to say? Yeah, at least I can do is tell good parents that they're bad kids in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely love the time. He says, when you talk to someone that's overweight and they lose weight, you ask them how do they do it, and they give you the obvious answer: diet and exercise. So when he talks about problems with the society, he's like, how do we do this? He says, here's how you do it. Keep the families together and have meals, right? Have meals together. Keep the family together. Don't let
And Charlie froze up. There we go.
Oh, sorry. Make them be responsible for their, for your family and your offspring.
Yeah. Your lips to God's ears.
All right. We got a very short one that Charlie's name is in front of.
Oh, here we go. Maybe we'll stop arresting nonviolent black men in Washington, D.C. if we end the police practice of stop and frisk. A D.C. judge said the lawsuit against the city can move forward.
Yeah.
This is an article from Tom Knighton.
By the way, I think that was an Obama-appointed D.C. judge. So, wow. The city profiles. D.C. has its good neighborhoods and its bad. And if you're walking while black, you can get frisked. And she said, yeah, no, let's go stop this.
It would be nice if New York City did something very similar, but with regard to pocket knives. They see a clip on your pocket, and they're going to stop you.
Yep.
So it would be interesting if, oh, what do you got in your pocket? Oh, it's a flashlight. They will be happy, but...
I got to tell you, a number of years ago, I stopped wearing a knife with a clip on it, on advertising that I had a pocket knife, because it was one of those things that I was thinking and say, as a guy that carries knives and guns, if I see someone that's got a clip knife on their pocket, he's probably got another knife, and he might have a gun as well. And obviously not that I'm looking to do anything wrong or do anything harmful to anyone, but just a little mental note, that guy's got a knife. So for years now, I haven't worn a pocket knife with a clip on it.
Right.
Well, and let's be absolutely plain-faced about this. A clip, if you have a clip on your knife, it's 99+% chance it's a folder.
Oh, sure.
And it's not. They're not the most dangerous knives in the world unless you let them get dull. The knives that, in my mind, that everybody's would freak out about, the butterfly knife and the awful switchblade, they don't have clips, so you can't put them on the top of your pocket like that.
I look at people with butterfly knives, and I'm thinking, it's like nunchuck. You're just as likely to hurt yourself opening it or practicing with it as you are using it.
I am a guy. I was born in '69, and butterfly knives were extremely popular when I was in my younger 20s. And I would be lying if I said I didn't have some scars on my right fingers. So, just saying.
Indeed.
All right,
Paul,
John,
do we want to move on or try to get in this one last one from New York?
yeah, let's get New York in here because this is an important story.
New York's red flag law was ruled to be unconstitutional. From the judge's ruling, without the requirement of any input from medical or mental health expert, the court is required to make a determination of whether, quote, the respondent is likely to engage in behavior that would result in serious harm to himself, herself, or others in Section 9.39 of the Mental Hygiene Law, close quote. Under the Mental Hygiene Law, a person's liberty rights cannot be curtailed unless a physician opines that a person is suffering from a condition likely to result in serious harm. Further, in order to extend any such curtailment of their liberty beyond 48 hours, a second doctor's opinion must be obtained, and such opinion must be consistent with the first doctor's opinion. Absent from New York's red flag law is any provision whatsoever requiring even a single medical or mental health expert opinion providing a basis for the order to be issued. New York's red flag law lacks sufficient statutory guardrails to protect a citizen's Second Amendment constitutional right to bear arms. Second Amendment rights are no less fundamental than Fourth Amendment rights, the right to liberty, and must be afforded the same level of due process and equal protection. And this was from the, if I remember correctly, the Supreme Court for Orange County, New York.
It was the New York State Supreme Court, and the interesting thing is that's not the highest level New York State Court. There's one more above that. It's the New York Court of Appeals is above that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Massachusetts. They give it a weird name.
Yeah.
But this reminds me of our friends, Jake Wiskerson and Mike Soldini at Walk the Talk America. Mm-hmm. They are advocates, just as you responsibly use lethal tools. They're saying, we know friends who might not today be fit to carry firearms. They may not be fit to have them in their home. Are they going through a divorce? Did a family member die? Are they receiving chemo treatment? Are they just going to leave home for a number of months? Job, vacation, who cares? Can we responsibly secure their firearms for them and lead by example? Mental health is the same way. Hey, you're going through a heck of a time. Can I hold your guns? And by the way, go get treatment. We're trying not to be a pariah. What was the comment? A quarter of us will seek mental health counseling at some point in our lives. Let's lead by example.
Well, and there was a John Petrolino article up on Bearing Arms today. I did not have time to go through the whole thing, but there was a sergeant that is now suing the state of New York. He was stationed in New York for a while and was having a hard time in the military, and he told his next superior up from him, look, I'm having issues and I've had bad thoughts. They said, okay, go with these MPs, go get treatment. The MPs drove him to a mental health facility and walked him to the door. The MPs turned around and left. He walked himself in. He was not forced by the military to go. And the state of New York said that it was that was a involuntary commitment. Even though he checked himself in, he checked himself out. And so now...
If you can check yourself out, it's got to be voluntary.
You're absolutely right. But the state of New York codes anybody that goes in as in this particular hospital coded anybody that was there for this amount of for a certain amount of time, they got coded as involuntary, and there's no way to going through the appeal. Yeah, so he's suing the state of New York. I hope he's successful.
Yeah. When John was reading this, I checked through, and this article was from Dan Zimmerman, and I wanted to check to see if it was John's article. John's article went on to say that this guy also he had a death in the family. His grandmother died, and she was the woman that raised him. And so he said, "Hey, listen, you know what? I could use a timeout from doing all this, and get some leave time here to straighten things out." And his higher up did not want to do it, but he finally had enough people support him and say that he should do it, and now, like they said, he's out throwing grenades and shooting machine guns when he's in the military, but when he's not with the military, he can't have a handgun, and that's completely ridiculous.
Rob Brink brought up Walk the Talk America. And there's another organization that I really like, Sarah Jane Albrecht's Hold Your Gun, where it's totally voluntary. She works with FFLs for them to provide safe storage and the return of the gun to the guy or gal when they think, the crisis is past.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I guess would it be snarky to say anything about John Fetterman from Pennsylvania?
No.
No.
I am. All right, guys. Let's. I want your opinion, guys. We are 1 hour 19 minutes into a 1 hour 30-minute show. Do we want to continue
one DGU and then rerun?
Yeah. Do we want to continue on with news? Do we want to do DGUs and close the show down? What do we want to do?
Let's jump to DGUs.
All right, let's do it.
One vote. But what do you guys think?
Yeah. There's stuff that we can continue to talk about next week anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get, and I just went over, sorry guys, it's been a while since I checked because I've been in the news section on my computer. I didn't go over and check comments, but let me get a couple of comments in here. Going back to Charlie's possible move, let me get this one in. Gun Owners Radio says, a bold new frontier for the stagecoach.
Exactly, a one-way trip, right?
Yeah, well, if I got out of Massachusetts, I certainly wouldn't be going back. Rob, you're not thinking going back to California, are you?
I'm Charlie. I'll move you to a free state. I'm not moving you to California. Not to New Jersey. No.
I'm not moving to Jersey, man. When I stepped off the airplane last year, when I went out to Gun Prom with the San Diego County Gun Owners, I'm telling you, I walked off the airplane. I thought it was going to be horrible. I was in San Diego. I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I should move here. And then I'm like, there's nothing I own that I can bring here. So that's probably not a good choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. I did talk with one of my new friends who I've got a show coming out with her in a month or so. But she's from Pennsylvania, moved down to outside of Philly. She was saying that everybody she knows that's left Massachusetts is happy they did.
Yeah. That doesn't shock me at all. Get gun websites up here just a second. He says, if you just hire a weapons caddy to follow you around with a selection of items you might need, you don't need to deal with all the carry options and save a lot of money on holsters. I wish SAF paid me enough I could have somebody follow me around with, the AR-10 and I don't know, the squad automatic weapon and the all that stuff. Let's see.
That sounds like a great job, though, right?
It does. I would even. If you're looking for a weapons caddy, okay, I'm going to put myself out there.
All right. My line from This Is Spinal Tap is, what are the hours?
There is that. All right. Let's do this. Let's go to one final break. We're gonna run late, guys. There's no way around it. We're gonna do one final break. We're gonna hear from JPFO. When we come back, we're gonna do a DGU and we're gonna shut the show down. So hang on, everybody. Right back, right after JPFO.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
All right, welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations, although they should be. Rob, let's talk Texas, man.
Yeah. Michael Cargill was in San Antonio. He probably knows this story pretty well. A man's vehicle was stolen from his home on the north side of San Antonio. There was an Apple AirTag in his truck, so he was able to track it down to a shopping center on the southeast side. Of course, he called the police, but they didn't say when they'd get there, and he wasn't going to wait. He walks up to his truck, says, "Excuse me, I think I know the owner of that truck. It's me." This is about 4 p.m, broad daylight. The man approached his truck and confronts the thief. Of course, there's a disagreement. San Antonio police spokesman said he couldn't confirm how violent the argument got, but the truck owner said he thought the thief was pulling out a gun, and that's when he responded. The thief was shot. He was also pronounced dead at the scene. The truck owner stayed at the scene and then said, "Hi, remember that stolen car? That's no longer a hurry, but you may want to come for other reasons." The truck owner was taken into custody for questioning. He's not expected to face charges. Obviously, the investigation's ongoing. To quote the police spokesman, "I urge the public to wait for police in matters like this. Let us go with you. We have training." Close quote. Yeah, lots of luck with that. John, Texas law is a little different. Are you going to talk about that?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Years ago, we had a DGU that we discussed where a guy killed 2 different burglars in 2 different instances who broke into his junkyard, and then I think one guy was breaking into his neighbor's house, and he shot and killed him. Texas law makes it legal to use lethal force to protect property. It's the only state, as far as I know, that allows that. It's legal, but I'm not saying you should do it. In fact, you probably should not do it. In this case, your truck's stolen. I would hope you have, insurance to protect yourself. You pay taxes for a reason. That's what the cops are for.
Yes.
And you have the AirTag. You can keep telling the cops where it is.
As long as they show up within a day or two.
Yeah. Now, I will say that when I plan to travel with a gun, like on an airplane, I will have an AirTag in that case.
Interesting.
I just wanted to bring this up. Heading to NRA annual meetings this week. I'm planning on bringing a gun with me, and somebody mentioned using an AirTag, and I'm not an AirTag guy, but I think they're about $30 or so. I thought I saw that they only have a range of 33 feet, but I don't know. I don't really know that. And if this guy's following his truck and you can put it in a suitcase, that's obviously going to be more than 33 feet. So
I've got a couple of them. They're about the size of a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
You could hide it easily in a case.
So it might,
I don't know
it might be a
about
good
the-
investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about the 33 feet. Yeah.
I was
right.
just traveling. A woman was at baggage claim saying, "My bags didn't show up. I've got an air tag. Let's. I can tell you right where my luggage is, and it should be here, and it's not." So that was, yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, if it's
Very
not on the same airplane with you, that covers the 30. I mean, that blows the 33 feet right out of the water there.
Yeah,
but I think it. Okay. Email and show notes.
Well, we do not do email anymore. We do instant comments and Pete has a great. Here we go, 33 feet to any iPhone. So, okay.
33 feet to any iPhone. Okay.
And he follows up with how many places are not feet from an iPhone in 2023. Well, I'm going to say that inside my house, there's a lot of space not because both Susan and I are Android. So, but yeah, you're generally right. So somebody who has an iPhone who isn't among the intelligent people that with Android, you know. Anyway, I'm just sorry. Let's go ahead and let's talk about our media. Rob, has there been anything? You spent 36 hours in the air. It must have felt like 3.5 weeks. I spent 6 hours, 7.5 hours in an airplane coming back from the U.S. Virgin Islands. I thought I was going to die before I hit the ground from starvation, not from the plane crashing. I had no doubt the plane was going to make it, but 36 hours in an airplane, oh my.
Well, no. That was several flights, either an airplane or an airport, once we started our travels, because, yeah, we couldn't get there from here directly.
I don't know if that makes it any better.
Well, yeah, never mind. It's a long trip to get to the other side of the world.
This is true.
And we need Elon Musk to hurry up with those rockets that get you from L.A. to London in 45 minutes.
It was fine. Next time we'll probably anyway. Since this is not the Rob's Travel Show, what would you like to talk about, Paul?
Well, have you had anything going up?
That question.
At your up at slowfax.wordpress.com.
Yeah, my brain still doesn't know when to wake up and when to go to sleep, so it has given me some odd chances to write. We know that your armed neighbor protected herself when she scared away the robber at night. What's fascinating is we don't know how many people she saved. We can come up with a number, but that simple question of how many lives did we save with armed defenders in a year? That's a witch. And if you're pressed for time, the answer is 4 to 6 million. If you want to find out how we got there, go to slowfax.wordpress.com, counting the uncountable lives saved by good guys with guns. My articles are up at Clash Daily, at OpsLens, and at SlowFax. John, what's new at your blog? No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money.
Well, last week was a very momentous week in the North Carolina General Assembly. The prior week saw the pistol purchase permit repealed, and this past week we saw the GOP now having a supermajority in both houses. Representative Tricia Cotham, who, after receiving all sorts of abuse, including death threats, for being absent on the day the vote override vote was taken, decided to hell with the Democrats and switched to the Republican Party. The far left of the North Carolina Democrats have only themselves to blame. They treated her like dirt, and she said, "See ya." In other news, I have a series of posts up about the Safari Club International Convention I attended in late February. The gun culture is a big tent. It needs to stay that way if we are to preserve our Second Amendment rights. Likewise, those who only have guns for self-defense raise a lot of money for wildlife conservation, just through the purchase of their guns and ammo.
Yep.
So we can't let the antis, both anti-gun and anti-hunting, divide us. We need to stick together.
I imagine I have put a lot of Pittman Robertson money towards wildlife preservation.
Yep. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com. Charlie?
I have episode 169 of Writing Shotgun with Charlie coming out tomorrow, and my guest is Michael Cargill, who is on the show with us tonight. I also have an article out at News 2A talking about the fashion show that the Gun Owners Action League and the DC Project Gals put on last weekend. And Armed Lifestyle magazine has been out for a few weeks. My column, Writing Shotgun with Charlie, features Yehuda Reamer, the Pew Pew Jew. And I'm also bracing myself for all things NRA this weekend. I've got to start packing and doing laundry and figuring out what I'm going to take. And it sounds now like I need to go out and purchase myself an AirTag someplace. So that is what I'm up to. Oh, and I'm hoping to film some shows. I got a couple people lined up to film some shows while I'm in Indianapolis. And I can no longer keep up with Amanda Suffolk, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
You know what? I wanna toot Charlie Cook's horn because I was thoroughly entertained, about a week and a half ago or so, when one Cam Edwards rode on the Stagecoach, man. That was a fantastic show. I don't think you've talked about it on our show here yet. Tell everybody about what it was like to have Cam Edwards ride shotgun.
Man, how much time do I have here? Certainly a media bucket list. This is one of those things. I was supposed to teach a class down in Virginia, and I was going to interview Jill McDaniel, who's also a DC Project and Mom at Arms. And I was looking at the map, and I saw that Farmville is a real place. I thought it was just something on Facebook, but Farmville, Virginia is a real place. And I talked to Petrolino, and John's like, "Do you have Cam's contact?" And I said, "I don't." So he reached out to Cam, and I ended up reaching out and asking Cam if he wanted to be on the show. So he said he would be up for doing it, which was really cool. So I went down to Farmville. We went and had lunch, and I got him in the car and drove around. And it's one of those dream come true kind of things. There's been a number of times. I mean, really, it's you have the bucket list people that you don't think that you're ever going to have on the show, and then when you're with them, you're like, all right, it's all biz, it's all work, like make things, it's a show, you know what I mean? It's an interview, keep things going, be entertaining, all that sort of stuff, and after I dropped him off, I had to go back to Petrolino's house in New Jersey, and it was 2 days later when I was at home uploading the video. I'm like, oh my God, I had Cam in my car, for God's sakes. It's one of those, like, I know it happened. I know it was there. I've got the video for it, but I didn't really realize it happened until I get to watch the show, and it was really cool. I don't know if I probably shouldn't blow this, but he gave me an exclusive about the first time that he actually touched a gun, not the first time he went shooting. And I'll blow it here. The first time he held a gun was at his soon-to-be wife's apartment in Camden, New Jersey. And she was supposed to, it was a gun that her father gave her, and she was supposed to turn it in to get $75 at a gun buyback. So they were moving her out of her apartment in Camden, and she told Cam to pick that up, and he didn't know what it was, and she said, "Oh, it's a shotgun my dad gave me," and he opened it up, and it was a short-barreled shotgun. And what they ended up doing with it was they threw it in the Delaware River. So I was like, let me see if I get this straight. The first time you touch a gun, Cam, is an NFA item, and you committed a felony with it. That's pretty cool, man.
Well, did you get to see his kids?
I did
the
not.
Four-legged ones.
I did not. He did say this. This is where things are really cool. he said, next time I come down to Virginia, I do not have to stay in New Jersey, and if I can deal with dogs and kids, then I can come stay at Cam's house. So I'm like, all right, let's do that. That would be incredible.
Wow.
Man, you got to remember us small people when you get big, Charlie. I mean, holy cow.
We knew Charlie back when.
Yes.
I know, right? Oh, please. You guys are helping me. Right?
It's not going to be long before I'm not going to have to say Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. He's going to dump the Cook like Madonna dumped her last name or Cher dumped her last name. It's just going to be Charlie.
Right, I was teaching a Utah class over the weekend, and I'm fingerprinting people, and I'm like, I add you to my email list. Here's what I do. And one of the guys looked at me. He's like, "Oh my God, I totally have seen your shows. You had Hickok on the show, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I interviewed Hickok." He's like, "That's awesome, dude." It was pretty wild because I'm Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie. That's me. He's like, "Holy crap, that's incredible." So, yeah,
we are now officially we're officially super late.
Way over time.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, what's been going on with you?
I had an amazing show this past Saturday. Rob Morse was on with me. Dan Waz was on with me. Beth Alcazar was on with me. We had a amazing show. If you cannot, or if you have not seen it, please, wherever you're watching now, go back and look at Saturday's stuff. That was a fantastic show. Please do go check it out. Going forward, this Saturday, I haven't got anybody booked yet, but this Saturday and every Saturday going forward, we're moving the start time of the Saturday Bullets to 5 p.m. Central. So, hang on. I got to get this one up. Clover Tack.
If it's a comment from Cam, I won't believe it.
He is Charlie, and much like Clover Tack, he is a big deal. So,
there we go. Well, thank you, Clover Tack.
Anyway, the one thing I want to point to everybody else here has so much going on. I want you to point you to Saturday's show. Go check that out. For me, that's going to do it for tonight. Come join me the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, for The Bullet. We'll talk about the news of the day, just that day. And we'll talk to you again next time. Let's see here. I got something I got to read down that does wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Faith Foundation's Polite Society podcast. I would like to thank, and I'm
Michael Cargill.
Thank you. Brain isn't working. I'd like to thank Michael Cargill for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, Carrie, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, we are clear of the recording. I'm going to shut the stream down here in just a second. I just had a thought going back to Charlie's talk with Cam. I have to wonder if they were to go and, like, dredge the Hudson, dredge the Delaware River, what kind of treasures would come up in that thing, man?
I lived in Connecticut when we had a bridge failure. They went through the river near the bridge with a fine-tooth comb, officially looking for bridge parts. They came up with all kinds of guns.
Yeah,
I would imagine so. I'm sure you guys have seen those videos where guys go magnet fishing,
Right.
and they just
Yep.
they drop a line with a magnet and pull out whatever they pull out.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to kill the streams, guys. Thanks for checking in. I know there was an issue with YouTube. There were 2 feeds open, but thank you for everybody that found this one and commented, and everybody who's watched. And we will see. Come join me tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time. We will see you